Hello, everybody, and welcome to another Bite-Sized Branding live show. I don't even know what to say after that. Good afternoon, good evening. I don't even know. I'm lost.
Good evening.
Everyone,
No,
welcome. I always don't know what to say. What do you say at 4 o'clock in the afternoon? Is it still afternoon? Do you say
It's
evening?
afternoon.
Yeah, okay. Yeah. It's like on the cusp. I feel like it's on the cusp.
Well, you've obviously
welcome.
started early this morning.
Yeah, it is on the cusp for me. I'm like, it feels like midnight already. Welcome, Emma and Grant. Emma's our special guest today. Thank you very much for joining us. And as always, my right hand. Are you actually on my right hand? I don't even know. Right hand guy, Grant Tom. Thank you very much for joining us. We have a fun show, I think, hopefully. We never know what Emma's going to say, so it's probably going to go crazy today. It's just going to be insane. But before we get into that, I'm going to kick it over to Grant. Grant, tell everybody what the format of the show is for today.
Well, welcome everyone. Welcome, Emma. Yeah, my name is Grant Tom, and I'm known as the head fire starter. And what that means is that when people have ideas, I like to get involved and help them to generate these ideas to become value in the sense that they can edutain their customers as well and grow value. So what we're all about here on the Bite-Size Branding Show is when we talk about subjects about digital marketing and advertising, we give it 5 minutes or less with a view to unbundle. And hopefully Bernard's got his clock and his clock stand today with a view to get going. No clock stand, no clock stand.
I do not. It's in the mail, and I thought it had arrived today. And I rushed off to the post office to get the parcel, and turned out to be a Samsung watch, which my business partner was happy about, but for the show, useless. It is, yeah, for him. I'm not going to wear it. He's going to wear it. So I don't like wearables. I'm like, my phone is so close to me all the time. Where am I going? If I can't reach it?
We need to see the clock, or Emma needs to see the clock.
I know. One day, Grant. One day I'll get my act together.
As we've got a guest, we're going to give it 2 extra minutes. 7 minutes with a view to ask a question, get answer. And Emma, Bernard and I will interrupt because we do. And it's not to be rude, but it's with a view to find the value that you've got from your experience and understanding from what you do in the marketplace. So
add some fire to the chat.
That's it. And in saying that, Emma, it's great to have you on the show. We've known each other for 3, 4
years now.
Yeah. It would be pre-COVID, so it must be at least almost 4 years now.
Wow. Isn't that interesting? That's how we define our life milestone.
Yes, COVID.
These days.
Yeah.
Pre-post.
Well, you know, whatever it is, if we think we've known each other for a year, then you add 2 for the COVID years, and that's where you're at.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. That makes sense. Sure.
There you go. It's like, we've known each other for 1 year plus COVID time plus 2. Then we're at 3. Yeah. Done. Yeah. Cool. Basically, since you kind of launched into Accelerate Marketing, right? We met in the very early stages in its birth.
We did. So I started Accelerate Marketing 2 years ago now. So it was really, it was born before COVID, and it came about because we just wanted to provide marketing consultations to businesses and also help with their digital marketing strategy. So we found our real niche in the financial services and professional services space. Our team has grown, our client base is diversified from a bit of tech and cybersecurity, but also still around professional services. So very excited to be here. It's great to kind of, explore different avenues. Being an entrepreneur, we can work with clients. We can have calls and discussions like this to be able to, provide our insight and give back and, have a bit of fun.
This is you giving back. Oh, charitable time to Bernard. But also, what really exciting is you're joining us on Meet Your Brand Parents in November. I think you are our special guest in the Sydney CBD. Yeah. You got the lucky slot. I put that out to a couple of people, and you were the first one to come back and say, "Yeah, I'm up for it." And that's it. That was yours.
I don't hesitate.
That's it. She's on the money. That's how you get good marketing done. You see, no hesitation. You have to go in. You have to get it done. And on that note, is everyone ready for the show? Is everyone ready for some unbundling questions? So for the first time ever, the only person who didn't get to see the questions prior to is Grant. So, Grant, fresh. You get to see everything fresh today. Are you ready?
Surprise me.
Awesome. So there are a couple in Accelerate Marketing, Emma and your team. You take care of quite a few different channels. One thing that's really evolving and changing right now is the email marketing space. And the question is out there with all that the chatter around saturation through channels. Is email marketing still relevant for professional services, or is that market too oversaturated? How do you get that cut through? So, are you ready to answer that question? I'm going to be holding this the way that Grant does not like or accept or appreciate. I will be holding this up from time to time, which is awkward because I just kind of do this to the conversation. But when you're ready,
we're going to know where we are.
Grant, you're burning through time now. Okay, cool. So Emma, professional services, email marketing. What are your thoughts?
Accelerate.
Yes, I'd love to kick off. So we do email marketing for our clients, and we have done since the beginning. It's always been a part of the strategy. The focus of it depends, I guess, on the objectives of the business, the size of the business, what we're trying to achieve with their clientele and their customers. I do think it's saturated when you look at how many emails you get per day, especially in the retail space. With professional services, what we find works really well, especially with our clients, is it's not a channel used for direct selling. It's to use as a communication tool. It's to provide updates, provide value, provide insight. Now, for an example, you might, for example, do a webinar like this with one of your clients, and then you might email out off the back of it and say, here's a recording in case you missed it.
Yep.
You're not selling them your service. You're not the call to action is, hey, if this would be helpful for you to watch and view it at your own leisure. You're not forcing them into anything. Some clients come to us and they've never even done email marketing, and they say, well, we haven't done it because we need to segment our database. We don't want to send it the wrong person, the wrong message, and so forth. And our response to them is, well, we need to start somewhere. We need to actually understand
analysis paralysis.
They've got this database that they've been sitting on for a couple of years now, which is built over time. And it was probably from a conference back in the day. There was, everyone got the 1,000 attendees from that conference. How warm is that database? You can't gauge the effectiveness of your marketing until you actually know the quality of the data that you have. So a really good way to test that is actually just doing an email campaign and seeing what the open rate, the click-through rate, and how many leads you get off the back of that. And then you could segment it depending on the response rates. So I would say it is saturated, but used effectively with a clear message, it's really good. And if you haven't done it before, then just dipping your toe in the water and just seeing, like I said, the quality of that data is a really useful exercise.
So Emma, would you say that the headline of the email is very important in the sense with the view to create that engagement?
Yes, and I've had this argument before with potentially directors of it. It's an argument in marketing. You always want to put forward why the marketing is or isn't effective. And sometimes they would say, oh, the click-through rate was low, and it's because the headline was terrible. It's like, well, the headline tends to constitute the open rate. So it's understanding what parts of the email and how do you measure that. So if you are looking at the open rate and how many people are engaging with that particular material, then yes, the headline is super effective. If you have, say, 3 sections in your email and you want to look at maybe the top sections, the news update and the article, the middle sections, the link to the webinar, and the end section is, a contact us form link, then you're looking at the effectiveness of those 3 different areas. So I would say, you want to break down the whole email into kind of different components, but to answer your question, ultimately, yes, the first thing to even get them to then into the email is going to be that headline. So playing around,
So then would you say it's a long copy email or a short copy email? What do you think is effective?
It depends on the audience.
Grant's got all the questions.
Depends on the industry. And look, if you're wanting to, and the intention of the email, if you're wanting to entertain, potentially shorter. If you're wanting to educate, maybe a longer format. If it's quite a mature base and they're used to receiving that type of content, what we find quite effective is if it is a long, say, PDF document, if it's a newsletter, we'll host that within MailChimp or whichever platform it is, and they can open it into their browser separately, or they can download it. People want to consume content in so many different ways, and I think we will touch on this a little bit later. So provide them the option to read part of it, to click it open in a link, to bookmark it for later. Provide multiple options to absorb that content if and when they're ready.
I find with my like with our current accountant, he gives a lot of information, quite long emails, but I find them really useful because they're divided up between bullet points and paragraphs. So like even though it's long form, it's the way in which they've used the content that makes it a lot more digestible. And if it did require a click away, I would actually probably not click away. I'd be like, give me the information here. If it's not here, then it's too hard basket. I'm done, you know? So it is interesting. Yeah.
I think you've said something quite appropriate there. That is your accountant, right? Someone who's a pretty important person in your life and your business. So if a broker said that to you, or a lawyer, or a financial planner who you didn't know, you probably wouldn't be as interested and as engaged with that.
And I think the other thing is that he never really sends. He doesn't send anything that's not relevant to the timing that he sends it. So he sends things as they're pointing it to you. So they're like current changes to XXX subsidy, or current change to, you know, and then he actually, the way he produces it is like in a way, he kind of breaks it down on the kind of use cases. So he's like, for your kind of business, X type of business, this is how you would use it. For X type of business, this is how you'd use it. So you're not just reading through it and then going, okay, there's a new incentive and now I have to figure out what that means to me. He actually kind of makes it applicable. And that's why when he hooked me on the first couple, then I started opening all of them, because I'm like, oh, okay, I get it. This is actually, not I get it, but it's actually relevant. He's actually written it with relevancy. So I don't know who writes the content. I doubt he does it himself, but it's on point. But I wanted to mention actually one of our most well-opened emails was one which we titled "How We Lost the $60,000 Client," and that got the most open rates of any email we've ever sent, because it generated interest. I think it actually generated concern. And I think people were like, what do you mean? And then they came in and we told them a story about how to approach a client through the client process, the client onboarding process, to get them to engage and want to be a part of the process, you know, asking the right questions, making sure you're involved in certain parts of the process. So just a little story about how titles can make a difference. This is look, we're very close now, Grant. Are you happy?
So close. I'm going to squeeze it in 15 seconds.
Yeah, do it.
With an email, there was a email that was sent out and it had in the title like no or zero, and the person thought it was going to be cancelling the account. So the urgency of that actually got a high open rate.
Oh, there you go. New phone.
Very aggressive buzzer.
Yeah, it is really, really aggressive. Even more aggressive than it used to be, Grant. Remember, it used to have the siren on there. Yes, okay, I've seen one like that before. Yeah.
It was meant to, the intention was meant to be like no fees or no this, but people thought actually their account was going to be cancelled. So accidentally they got a really high open rate just because they accidentally frightened their customers. So yeah, you want to be intentional about using no or zero. Using numbers does numbers and emojis tends to get some good responses.
Yeah, I had one once that came from somebody that was like, it looks like we're breaking up. And I was like, what's this about? And then, but now I've seen it done a lot after that first email. And now I've received it 4 or 5 times. Yeah.
Can I make one more comment? If you are going to personalize your email and create that within the email, can you please make sure you have the first name of everyone's email?
Right.
The amount of emails I get, hi there, or test, or like, I
love the ones that say hi 𝗖𝗍𝗍𝗃𝗲𝗃, and I'm like,
oh no.
I missed the 𝗖𝗍𝗍𝗃𝗲.
Yeah, I'm like, Jesus Christ. When my old email used to be iam@𝗤𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏, which I thought was really cute. But for all those little bots, they would then pick up hi, I am. So it would be Iam, hi Iam, and then the rest of the email. And I'm like, come on, man. It's clear that you did not.
Damage is done.
Yep. Spam. Cool. So, Grant, do you want any final?
First of all, I feel very guilty. The fact that I kill a lot of emails, and obviously I'm not giving them enough attention of their time because they've tried something on their headline or they've really tried to engage me, and I just haven't bothered, and I've just gone very quickly, and I've just gone to kill it. So from this conversation, I feel a little bit guilty for the effort that people have gone into to try and get my attention.
Aw, what a sweetheart. Who would have thought? He's so rough on the exterior. Marshmallow on the inside. Next question. You guys all ready?
Let's go.
obviously a lot of businesses, I think the big thing around business right now is this, it's just so much data going around, right? And most businesses don't even manage their data well, let alone know how to use it effectively. What are your thoughts around segmentation when it comes to communication of a service, and how do you use it effectively within a business? Ready to rumble?
Yep.
Wow.
Grant, do you want to take this one first?
No, this is all yours.
This is all yours.
You're the guest.
Okay, all right.
Nobody wants to hear from Grant.
This is episode number 70 something, right?
So yes,
72. Okay.
Yeah. Very well conditioned.
In terms of segmenting data, I would say, firstly, businesses don't actually realize the data they have until we have the conversation about it. Okay, do you have a list of, okay, well, they've got their customers. Oh, hang on a minute, we've actually got a list of our prospects. Oh, hang on a minute, we've actually got a list of our partners that refer us. So I would say the first point is actually trying to collate all that data and understand the size of the audience that you have. And then you've made a really good point already in the first question around how the data and the information is broken down to be applicable to you in that email. So there's a trade-off when you're creating that content. Do you want to create 3 different emails for startups, scale-ups, and growth businesses, or whatever the breakdown is, or your turnover, less than $1 million, 2 to 5, 5 to 10 plus mil? However you want to segment it, you could either do it in that email like you had with your accountant, where they talk to the different types of businesses, because you might not only, you're not going to be a less than $1 million business forever. You eventually, those other areas will apply to you. Yeah. So you potentially want to maybe even move that customer into the higher tiers of the business over a period of time. So getting that information to them early on when they're, starting out actually wouldn't be, too off-putting, I think, to them. Otherwise, once you do have the size of your database, then you can segment that audience. It's effective to obviously look at the stats for the different groups, so the open rates and the engagement rates, and you might want to give them a different lead journey as well. So potentially they need to go to different pages. You don't want to send one of your clients to a contact us page. That would be a terrible experience. Yeah. So I would say if the call to action's different, if the audiences think differently quite greatly, and there is benefit, and you have a system set up that's also allowing for that, because you could take a business that isn't well versed in marketing, a couple of days to create 3 different emails and set up 3 different audiences, and they've missed the boat. If they had just sent that one email, they could be on the phone to those customers already. So it's this trade-off of getting something out that's perfect, to make sure that it's going to be exactly right and the right message, to just getting it out and having a stab and seeing what comes off it, and then create those revisions and optimizations after that point.
I think a lot of people worry about. I think one thing that a lot of people forget is the being front of mind. So a lot of people look at those hard numbers. How many opens? How many clicks? How many conversions did we get? They forget that actually being front of mind is an important touch point as well. Just the fact that it's landed in their inbox and they've seen your name come up an X amount of times has a tangible value to it too. It's no different than running a billboard ad. You can't measure how many eyeballs have been on that billboard ad, but it's that front of mind that it creates that keeps you on the tip of their tongues. And then the other thing is, like you said, as the business matures, staying front of mind also allows them to, for that business to be a touch point as the business grows. So they might not be right for you now, but they might be right for you in the future. I know with segmentation, you can get quite detailed with it, and I don't know if there's, and I think right time, right place. There's an applicable use case for true segmentation. So everything from scripting per industry, so look at how you can talk to one industry more effectively than another, putting in a little bit of jargon to create a little bit more impact for those different industry segments. And then business size actually makes a difference too, because things like, especially in accounting, right, things that are impacting a large scale business that's over 100 employees, with employee tax, who has a payroll over $1 million, et cetera, those things don't affect us. So sending us an email about payroll tax is pointless. Whereas, if you have building businesses that are in that $1 million plus, that have, or $5 million plus probably, that have a payroll of 900,000, then you can be more effective in the conversations you have with them and the information that you share. So does MailChimp go to that level of granularity in your data? can you actually segment to a level where you're putting, demographics around the contacts?
Yeah, you can put turnover of business. It depends, how deep your data goes.
Yeah.
And then I would say probably the point is when those businesses change, making sure those systems, your CMS and your marketing platform talk together, so your data is always accurate. Especially with, I just kind of would mention your unsubscribes.
Yeah, you don't want to mail them again.
Yeah, you can get in trouble for not having that feature from the beginning, actually, the opt-in, not having the checkboxes, to then not having the unsubscribe and the email.
And a lot of people forget to do that, right? An email lands in their database. We use HubSpot, so like we know we've done this for people in our network as well, where they don't have that checkbox opting them into receiving content, which is illegal. You can't actually start to market those people without getting their acceptance to be marketed to. So, yes, interesting.
But I think one of the things also very important, that a lot of businesses are sitting on a gold mine in the sense of their data, in the sense that they don't always compile it or build it or establish it correctly in the beginning, and therefore it's always a chase after. If you just set it up from the beginning and look after it and make sure it's always up to date, then you'll make sure that your effectiveness of when you send out will reach the correct criteria and categories of who you're sending to.
We also talk about doing re-engagement. Like I think, Emma, you kind of touched on it before as well. Like most people never recheck their database. They've had these contacts build up over 10 years and they've never done another touch point to this contact since the first time they interacted 4 years ago, 5 years ago, whatever it was. Re-engagement is a huge amount of lost opportunity. See how awkward it is? It's a huge amount of lost opportunity because they're people that already know your name. They've already experienced you in some kind of touch point. So re-engaging them is, go ahead.
I agree. I would say that a suggestion and potentially a tactic you could use is going back to them with an offer, depending on obviously what product or service you offer. Is, we'd love to, we've got a spring special on at the moment, or, if you come back to us and utilize our service, we'll give you $100 off your next product. So
there you go.
Re-engage them, but give them something of value to think about, and actually, remember why they, spoke to you or bought from you in the first place.
Cool. Do you think just to randomly ask questions outside of the timer, because
we can do that.
Respect for
you run the show.
Do you think there is a risk putting offers that can damage the perceived value of a product?
Yeah. Very much so.
Yes, especially with even like refer a friend. It's like if you think, like, look at our industry, right? If we know that there's another business or service that is going to be able to provide and help that customer, we'll refer them on. The same as that if you go to a beautician and I think my beautician's great, I think my hairdresser's great, you should go use them. There's more validity in that and authenticity in that type of referral than there is, I know I'm going to get paid $50 or $100 if I send this person on. And they know it's widely spoken about, or they put it on their website, $100 for a friend. It does cheapen their brand image, I would say. So I would be very careful to use that, and even offers as well, being very selective about using it. Otherwise, your audience will become expecting of that and will wait to purchase until that happens. Obviously, you're going to have end of financial year sales, and you're going to have your Black Fridays, and people might, they might wait a week up until then. But ultimately, like, if you need a pair of Nikes, are you going to wait for a sale? If you need a new iPhone, are you going to wait for a sale? You're just going to go buy it. If you need it, you trust the product, you trust the brand, you're going to go purchase it.
That's right.
And that's why a lot of those brands, like if you look at the Apple model, then they never discount, because they know, like, people are going to come and they're going to buy the product. They've got a value proposition and they've built a reputation around that value proposition.
You do get business discounts though, just FYI.
Yeah, but it's essentially you to add on more products to your range.
Yeah, Emma hasn't mentioned that she gets kickbacks from every Apple product if you mention her name. She just
Apple.
I
wish.
You mentioned Emma's name, you get discount.
I'm not an Apple ambassador, but I do like her product.
Call Emma Apple. Cool. Yes. Any other brands we want to just throw in here? No. Anyone else? Okay,
Covered
cool.
it.
Give me a Jag, no problem. Awesome. I'll be a Jaguar ambassador. Sure.
Oh,
All over it.
yeah, great.
Yeah.
You
Done.
go,
You
boss.
get your apples, I'll get a Jaguar. You know what's going to end up happening? Somebody's going to send us some fruit and a wildcat. And neither of those things are going to be very useful very long.
Apples.
And on that note, last question. How effective are all the different channels? I know we mentioned it before. There are so many different channels out there, and so many different places that you can use your content. How can you be more effective on each one of the content channels, and what content have you seen works better on one channel versus another? So whether that's in email or leveraging email content or blog content, how do you use and repurpose? I've written here a note: repurpose with purpose. See, I came up with that this morning. That's right. 6 a.m. Boom, magic. Awesome. Look.
Love it. It's a great question. I think it's very relevant at the moment with everyone feeling a little fatigued by the amount of advertising and the amount of content that is out there. I would say, well, what we do is we write a strategy for all our clients before we even commence with the marketing plan. So we spend the time looking at different content pillars, different themes, and we come up with a plan of how to make sure that the content that they promote and we put out is varied in nature and is working towards an overall objective. So that objective is brand awareness, it's their perception, it's talking about their services. It could also just be communicating the value of their team. It could be talking about their culture. One of our clients, we were positioning our marketing strategy actually to recruit and attract more staff for their business. And so that involved us updating their website and their careers page, promoting their LinkedIn job ads, looking at filming some video content. We worked with another agency on that. They filmed it and then we put it across their LinkedIn. But if all we did was that, then you'd be sick of that type of content. So you've got to break that up with, okay, we're going to do a blog article, and because they've got different sections of the business, we're going to do a blog article on this topic and this topic. So you have a plan behind all the different channels and platforms. I'm a big believer in having a plan and being structured and being organized and being consistent. Being consistent helps you get results, and it helps provide the opportunity to reflect and review what's working and change and pivot your approach as needed. But you have a baseline plan. So we come up with the different themes, we come up with the different content pillars, we have a look at the different types of content and what channel would be best suited towards that content. We're not going to put a blog article across 5 carousel posts on Instagram. We're probably not going to put a 10-minute long video on Facebook or Instagram. So you have to look at what the content is, what the objective of the content is. Is it to talk about a service? Is it to entertain? Do we want them to share it? Do we want them to view this and then join the next webinar or download this form or sign up to this subscription service? What is the objective behind it, and then what's the best channel that's going to be effective for that? So it's not these days about taking one piece of content and duplicating that across different channels. I spoke about this today just in a meeting with a potential new client, just about the spread of the content. And it's not about that kind of cookie cutter approach. We've never been like that. That's why we take longer to do things, because we put the thought and the messaging behind it, and we be creative.
So would you send multiple messages on multiple platforms at the same time in order to just have lots of conversations, or would you stagger it with the view that you don't overtrade the market and confuse the market?
It's a great question, because these days, with having a story on Instagram, it's there for 24 hours. So if you have a story on Instagram and then you put a post on LinkedIn, that trends for 12 hours or so, and then maybe you see it the next day, and as people comment. So there is this benefit to having kind of an always on visibility of your brand, but you want to have a consistent message and theme to that. I would say, and also you don't want to take one piece of content and spread it too thin too many times. It loses the effectiveness of it. One of our clients has been so well at being awarded recently. The amount of awards is insane for both them and some of the directors of the business. But if we keep just putting out award posts, it's going to lose the credibility of that.
Yeah,
so
yeah, yeah.
What is the story? Do we want to talk about the business being awarded? Do we want to talk about, as if you talk about them collectively, you lose the value of one of their senior directors. She was recognized as a finalist and has received an award already. You lose the limelight on her. So what is the positioning of that? Do you want to position and say, look how great our staff are at being able to be recognized in the industry, and this is what we help our staff achieve? Or do you want to position and say, look, this is how the business is being positioned, and these are the organizations we're working with? Or is there a story we can talk about both? And when they get one award back to back to back, so that's what we do. That's what we do day in, day out. We balance the type of content, the platforms, and the messaging, because it isn't always clear from, you get an image. Okay, let's put it up. Or how do you want to design it? Or do we turn this into a video? So you've got to think about it in the lens of their audience and who you're sending that to.
And what works better in the sense of a brand story, like storytelling mode, or that of selling product and service and value? What works better from an engagement perspective?
It's a great question, because I think, again, it probably depends on the channel. It probably depends on their audience. When you think about it, if you're talking about their brand, and maybe they're talking about, the evolution of their brand or the growth of their brand, and they talk about some of the clients they've worked with over the last, 5 years, it's going to be far more interesting than saying, we offer tax advisory, sorry to the accountants that we work with. But, if we talk about the growth of their business, like, one of our clients celebrated their 5th anniversary last Friday. It was a fabulous event. They had their clients there, they had their staff there, they had their staff and their partners there. That type of event was a huge success. But we do need to balance that so people know what they're specialized in, and why they are different in market, and why they have such a high retention rate of client and a growth rate in their business is because of the way they operate. And it probably goes to then their values of authenticity and transparency and attentiveness to their clients. So 51 seconds, wow, that went really fast. So I would say mix the two. You don't want people to just know your brand without knowing what you offer, and you don't want to push your offering without them knowing the type of business you are.
And then quickly, sorry, Bernard, would you promote or advise that clients, their staff, participate in the engagement as in order to feel like they're participating in the campaign and participating with the company?
Clients or staff?
Staff.
Absolutely. And I know this time is going to go off in like what?
No,
yeah, okay.
Yeah,
it's
plenty
just so
of time.
loud. It's just but it's just so. I'm just going to wait for it to finish because it's just so like aggressive.
Wow, what a rule breaker! You're literally not going to answer the question.
I'm not going to answer the question until after the timer.
This is rude. Okay, let's have the answer.
Tell us.
So, can you repeat it again, just so I have full?
No, you should have answered it when he asked it.
You see, we should not wait for it. All right. Yes. Is it a good idea for the staff to participate on a campaign in order to look like they are participating in the company, or should it just be that the client should participate and no staff should get involved as well?
A side question. Do you mean engage as in like and share and comment, or do you mean engage as in create content that is shared by the company, or both?
I'm talking about engaging with the content that's posted out there.
Yeah.
I'm not professing that someone else should generate other content, because then I think it loses its tone. But I think what's important is to show involvement and engagement if they were to participate. Okay,
so isn't it great that we asked this question a second time, because we got more depth to the question, and now we're going to have a better
Emma,
response.
Breaker.
It's the time again.
Yeah, I would say absolutely yes, getting staff involved. Now, you want to have as much internal buy-in as you possibly can. It just helps with getting things potentially approved from stakeholders. It helps the flow of the information through the business. One of our clients, we've been running their email marketing newsletters for 2 years now, and it's at a point where we're actually going to separate it, and we're going to do an internal newsletter And we're going to do an external newsletter to clients, because the staff love hearing. They've got offices all around Australia and overseas. So the staff love hearing about what everyone else is doing. And clients aren't always going to want to know about everyone's 21st and 30th and 40th and 50th and 60th birthdays. But they do want to hear about how the team is celebrating, what overall milestone. So it's the newsletter we have been created is going to be separated, and it's going to be rolled up into a higher, more professional feel now for external parties and clients. Then the staff are still going to be involved. So the staff still need to contribute that. The way that we get that information can be tricky because everyone's time poor, everyone's busy. So we create WhatsApp groups with our clients, and they can put photos and comments in there. And so we can grab the information really accessibly, or they email it. And then we have a task in our project management system. You can drop all the photos and videos in there, and then we can, create posts off the back of that. Another point I would make is just around that staff sharing the content or engaging with it. On the engagement front, it is great if they like it, if they share it. One of the clients that we were working with earlier this year, they significantly increased their LinkedIn following. I'm talking like 10x their LinkedIn following, just from having their staff follow and engage with the page. LinkedIn also has a great feature where you can invite 250 people to follow the page every month. I think most people know about that now. So circulate the manage admin, circulate the admin across different team members. Like, okay, this month, Jerry, it's you. Okay, Samantha, now you're on November. And actually, get engagement in that way. And it kind of, it opens them and opens their mind to marketing just so slightly. The other thing that we've done with some of our businesses is look at the LinkedIn profiles and the cover photos of staff. I've mentioned before, consistency in your messaging and consistency in your branding. So, your staff are all a representation and extension of your business. Some businesses now are actually including it in the contracts where there's like a social media clause that, your photos then are going to be used, and there's actually a requirement for them to have some level of interaction with the business on social media. So it's actually yeah, so I think social media isn't going anywhere. It's changing and evolving daily. Getting the staff to engage with the post is good. When you have so much content, like what we've now in a position with one of our clients, it could actually be good for one of their staff members to do the post. We would still write that post, and we'd send it to that staff member and say, you post this, because it's still getting a reach.
I like this.
Yeah, so I would say provide the support to the teams. Don't expect that the staff members are going to be championed and confident enough to do it themselves. Provide them the guidance or the guardrails to work within to share or create content, and certainly encourage it, because that's where you get the real gems of the business and the value of the business and their point of difference, which is ultimately going to be their culture and their way of operating.
Okay.
Yeah, I love that idea.
Yeah, I love that idea too.
Yeah. Jeez, so many ideas. So many ideas. Well, now that you've broken all the rules, that brings us to the end of the show.
Awesome.
And that was great. That was so much cool information. I love that last question, actually. It went in a much more diverse direction than I think we anticipated. And I love the idea of working more with our team. And to be honest, it is hard sometimes to engage them to do that. But I love that it's like kind of part of the whole culture of the business, is that everyone partakes. So that is something I'm going to implement. Grant,
I think it's a great idea.
Let's do it.
Awesome.
Let's do it.
Thank you so much for having me. This has been
likewise
a very fun fireside chat. I love the format, the 3 questions.
Cool.
Yeah.
You love the clock the most.
Yeah, she loved the clock. Honestly, she talks a little bit of smack about the clock, but just throwing shade, man. She likes the clock. That's it. Everyone likes it.
I don't like working to a buzzer, and a few people will attest to that. Because why I became a business owner.
That's the secret to the show. That's our secret sauce.
Yeah.
Yes.
Well,
I look forward to seeing the big clocks that you get on your wall next.
Yeah, one day I'll do something better. Yeah, I'm right here.
Yeah.
On that note, thank you everybody for joining us. Thank you, Emma, very much for giving us your time. And Grant, as always, it's a pleasure. Everybody that's following along, thank you for joining us. Please like, comment, share. Give us ideas or guests that you'd like to put on the show. And Grant always loves something controversial, so if you want us to unbundle something controversial on the show, please let us know. We're definitely up for it.
Let's do it.
And I think that's it. So have I forgotten anything, Grant?
Yeah, final words.
Grant's final words
is that I think today we've had a lot of education. I think we've really had a ton of education, but I think in the manner that it was delivered was very entertaining, and that is called edutainment. And I just think that the way that you learn to apply things is by having fun, but being practical, but at the same time having the knowledge to know how you're going to get to the end result. So until then, bite-sized branding is out. Cheers, guys.
Mate, he really just threw that in there, didn't he? Thank you very much, everybody. Have a good night.
Goodbye.
/ afternoon.
Thanks, guys.